When would you say we concretely knew that widespread welfare fraud was occurring in Minnesota?
There have been reports since 2009 from the Office of Legislative Auditor. I would say the credible reports on child care fraud started surfacing 2011 to 2013.
So for over a decade?
Yes, sir.
When do you think Governor Walz knew about this fraud?
From the very beginning. He was running for governor in 2018 when there were prosecutions going on, when there was an OLA report, active cases in the news all the time.
And what was the Walz administration's response?
Everyone keeps saying immigration debates are too complicated to break down into numbers. Funny thing is, today's hearing was nothing but numbers, and none of them were looking good for Tim Walz. There's an old line in politics, a lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still waiting for the committee chair to recognize the next speaker. So grab a drink, settle in, and let's walk through what just happened. And before we dive in, if you want to see the kind of unfiltered oversight clips the media rarely shows, hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned. Because what Brandon Gill pulled off today wasn't just another speech. It was more like a full-on spreadsheet ambush.
Questioning portion of the hearing, and Chair recognizes Mr. Gill from Texas for the first question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for holding this hearing so expeditiously. We all know this is an important issue, not just in terms of welfare fraud, but also immigration more broadly, so we appreciate it. And thank you for the witnesses for taking the time to come here. I want to start with you, Mr. Valu. Again, thank you for being here. Let me ask you, does large-scale Somali immigration make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Certainly stronger.
Certainly stronger. Do you know what percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on food stamps?
No.
54%. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Well, to be clear, a majority of the...
It's 7%. There's a big difference between 54% and 7%, is there not?
Excuse me, sir, could I answer the question?
Let me move on. We've got a lot of questions here. What percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on Medicaid?
I don't know.
It's 73%. Do you know what that number is for Minnesota native households?
Again, you're using the phrase Minnesota native households, but the majority...
The number is 18%. That's quite an astounding difference. I think we would agree.
Can I answer the question, please?
Let me ask you one more, and then we can go into that. What percentage of Somali-headed households are on welfare in general?
I don't know.
It's 81%. What about, let me just ask you, after 10 years of being in the United States, what percentage of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare?
I don't know.
The number is 78%. So even after 10 years, 78% of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Again, you're using
non-Somali immigrant-headed households.
If I can just answer the question, when you're using the phrase native Minnesotans, the majority of Somali Minnesotans are as Minnesotan as any of us. They were born in the United States. It's only 8,000 of the 108,000 Somali.
Nevertheless, the welfare usage is astoundingly different. Let me ask you again, does that make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Again, I'd like the opportunity to answer the question here. So, again, the majority of Somali Minnesotans are born in the United States, as I understand it.
Okay, well, what percentage of working-age Somalians who have been in the U.S. for 10 years or more, how many of them speak English very well?
I don't know.
About half. The answer is about half. That seems pretty low, doesn't it?
Again, I keep trying to...
It doesn't sound like something that makes our country stronger to me, and I think most Americans would agree with me on that. I need to move on. Ms. Robbins, when would you say we concretely knew that widespread welfare fraud was occurring in Minnesota?
There have been reports since 2009 from the Office of Legislative Auditor. I would say the credible reports on child care fraud started surfacing 2011 to 2013.
So for over a decade?
Yes, sir.
When do you think Governor Walz knew about this fraud?
From the very beginning. He was running for governor in 2018 when there were prosecutions going on, when there was an OLA report, active cases in the news all the time.
And what was the Walz administration's response?
They actually did nothing when they got into office, and Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan had been on the committee in the legislature that had hearings on child care fraud, and when they got into office, they did put $5 million into a little more money, but nothing changed.
But nothing. And let me ask you, Mr. Hudson, thank you for being here. Did those who commit this fraud, do they typically vote for Republicans or Democrats, in your opinion?
In my opinion, thank you for qualifying like that, I would say they most definitely overwhelmingly vote for Democrats.
Do they typically donate to Republicans or Democrats?
Not to my knowledge. They don't donate to Republicans, they donate to Democrats, in my opinion, yes.
Got it. So would you say this is the Somali population is an important demographic for Democrats to win over politically?
Unquestionably.
Got it. And do you think it would have hurt Democrats' political standing with the Somali population to investigate this fraud?
Very clearly.
Got it. So in other words, you're saying that there was a political incentive to cover up widespread Somali fraud. Is that right?
100%.
Got it. Let me ask all three of you. Did the Walz administration and Democrats intentionally, in your opinion, overlook this fraud while it was happening for political gain? I'll start with you, Ms. Robbins.
Absolutely. We have credible whistleblower reports that the Department of Human Services administration, up to the OIG and the commissioner, met with a group called the Minnesota Minority Child Care Association multiple times, and that they were trying to weaken protections. We wanted,
Right.
we had several changes we wanted to do, and they opposed all of them.
And Mr. Hudson and Ms. Rarick, and then my time is up.
I would agree.
Absolutely. The whistleblowers confirm it.
Got it. Thank you.
Chair now recognizes Ranking Member Garcia.
So do you support federal efforts to bring to justice those who commit federal crimes in Minnesota?
I most certainly do.
Okay. Does Minnesota honor ICE detainer request?
Congresswoman, thank you for the question. I've been making sure I get my opportunity here. Minnesota follows all federal law. State law requires, and I would say the state law requires all state and county facilities to ask for immigration status when a convicted felon is committed and tells DHS if they're undocumented. All state facilities. DOC calls DHS before a convicted felon leaves prison. We have a controlled handover.
How can we be sure that your state is serious about cooperating with the federal government to enforce our immigration laws?
We do it on a daily basis, Congresswoman. And again, I say this is the floor. Counties can do more, but here's the confusion we have right now. Last week, a list of supposed sanctuary cities or counties were put out. Many of those were counties in Minnesota that had gone above and beyond. Their sheriffs said it put them at risk because they were doing that. They were sharing information and doing what they're supposed to do. It's a coordination issue.
But you said in your answer it's only if they've been convicted of crimes that
or a judicial warrant. Or a judicial warrant. That's correct. After due process has been served.
So that you don't cooperate if they're illegally here and the ICE comes to get them.
If they have gone through the process, Congresswoman, and they have received due process, and ICE's job is to come and get them. It's what I've been saying all day.
But if they're here illegally, then they're here illegally. There's no, they've broken the law already.
Many are here as asylum seekers. They've overstayed a visa.
I have another question to ask you, Governor. As I've said before in this committee, innocent American taxpayers are collateral damage in the Democrats' pursuit of open border policies. Americans pay with their wallets, their safety, and all too often their lives.
The moment the hearing really turns, things go nuclear around the 0:29 mark. Gill opens with a question so simple it almost sounds polite. Does large-scale Somali immigration make Minnesota stronger or weaker? The response comes immediately, certainly stronger. Confident, clean, and without hesitation, and that's when Gill does the one thing every politician dreads. He stops debating philosophy and starts reading the receipt: food stamps, Medicaid, welfare, 10-year residency, English proficiency. One statistic after another drops like a gavel on the table. 54% of Somali-headed households use food stamps, compared to 7% of native Minnesota households. 73% are on Medicaid, compared to 18%. 81% receive some form of welfare support. And even after 10 years in the United States, that number is still 78%. At this point, the witness isn't really debating anymore, he's trying to interrupt. Gill doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't insult anyone. He doesn't editorialize. He simply keeps moving forward, calmly, like someone who knows the clock is on his side, and the math isn't. Here's the sharpest part of it all. After laying out the numbers, Gill repeatedly offers the witness a chance to respond. That's not rudeness. That's courtroom discipline. Then comes the quiet dagger: English proficiency. After 10 years in the country, only about half of working-age Somali immigrants speak English very well. Gill doesn't dramatize it. He simply says what many viewers at home are already thinking: that doesn't sound like something that makes our country stronger. No applause. No theatrics. Just silence, the uncomfortable kind. From there, the hearing shifts from welfare statistics to motive. When did Minnesota officials first know about the fraud? More than a decade ago. When did Tim Walz know? From the beginning. What did his administration do about it? Nothing that changed the outcome. Then comes the line many Democrats likely didn't want officially recorded: who do the perpetrators typically vote for? Overwhelmingly Democrats. Who do they donate to? Also Democrats, would aggressively. Investigating this fraud have hurt Democrats politically. The implication becomes clear, leading Gill to say the quiet part out loud, that there may have been a political incentive to look the other way. All three witnesses acknowledge the point. That's not a partisan sound bite. That's sworn testimony. By the time Gill's speaking time expires, Tim Walz hasn't been attacked emotionally, but he has been indicted numerically. No shouting. No viral meltdown, just math, motive, and silent, and that's why the hearing matters. Spin doesn't survive oversight when someone actually does the homework. If you want more moments like this, real hearings, real receipts, and no narrative padding, make sure you're subscribed. Because the truth doesn't need outrage. It just needs air.